Okay, morning everybody, and welcome back. And an update today from AbraSilver and John Miniotis. Welcome, John. I guess before we get going, just a disclaimer, right? Not financial advice. Please read full disclaimer in the YouTube notes below. But John, before we get going here, you just had a nice little news release. Welcome back, by the way, this morning that showed that, yeah, some met work you're releasing on your Oculto PEA or on your Oculto deposit, and some exciting numbers, right? That previously, with the PEA, you had, I think it was median silver recovery for Oculto was 73.5%. And as of this morning released median, the new updated number is now 89.5%. Obviously, that's huge efficiency increases and a huge amount of kind of free money in the works now from that. Do you just maybe want to expand on what that means for your company and what it means for your work down there?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much, Matthew, for inviting me back. Always happy to provide an update. And yeah, in terms of our press release that we just came out with in terms of the excellent recovery rates at Jack, as you mentioned, I mean, that's very significant. I mean, there's clearly a direct correlation here with the higher recovery as you get better economics. And so this is going to have a significant impact in terms of the pre-feasibility study that we'll be announcing later this year. But yeah, as you just summarized, at Oculto, the mineralization is quite a bit more complex. I mean, there's gold zones and then silver zones. And so, you know, at Oculto, the high silver zones probably have recoveries of about 80% or so. But overall, as a whole, the silver recoveries are about 73.5%. Whereas here at Jack, you know, it's a much higher grade, and it's predominantly silver with minor amounts of gold. And importantly at Jack, the deposits are, you know, so different mineralization, which make it much easier to be released when you grind it, and more sensitive to cyanide leaching, which is, of course, a very positive here. And so at Jack, we did these 14 different metallurgical samples that we sent to a lab, got back the results, and the silver recoveries ranged between 86% to 93% on the high side. So significantly above our expectations and very, very nice results. And then gold results were also very high, very good, between 82 to 91%, depending on, you know, where in the deposit the samples were taken. So, you know, we're extremely pleased. I mean, Jack has really come together very, very nicely. We're consistently encountering high grades in our drill results, and it's nice to know that we expect very high recoveries, which is clearly going to make a positive impact for the pre-feasibility study.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, I mean, and a very simple extraction process. There's no need for very expensive infrastructure there, and also same mill feed, if I'm not mistaken, right? All the different deposits or resources or ore bodies you found so far can processed in the same mill feed, which again just speaks to the economics. I mean, when we last spoke, Jack was just nicely getting going and the kind of excitement around the grades and such, but now it's turning into a very potentially practical mineable ore body.
That's right. Yep, that's right. So now the Diablillos project is going to have two pits. So of course the large Oculto pit, and then this higher grade Jack zone, and both of them will be, you know, use the same process flow sheet. Nothing novel at all here. So simple sort of crush grind, and then cyanide leaching, and then you produce gold and silver doré. So quite straightforward processing, both open pitable, and that's why we've only been focused on the oxides. I mean, we could talk about some of the sulfides down below. That would require separate processing, but that's further upside for later on down the road, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And we will touch on those sulfides. There's questions around copper content and what might be lurking beneath the oxides here. But why don't we just do a quick recap? I mean, I think we spoke end of November last time, so just about nicely 6 months since then. $10 million financing at 37 cents. I mean, just more. I mean, I think I saw 10 different news releases where headline numbers were just impressive grades. So you've been busy and have released a lot of news to market. And I mean, I'll put up some grades here visually, but just silly grades, right? Thousands of grams per ton in terms of silver, world leading grades. 22,000 meters drilled. Correct. So I believe you have about $13 million or so still in terms of working capital in the bank. So that's about 12 months to last. Maybe do you want to touch on? I mean, this is my 30-second overview of the last 6 months. But I guess what's been the highlights for you personally?
Yeah, no, that's a great summary there. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, first off, we're obviously very happy we completed that $10 million financing late last year. That's really what's allowed us to conduct this very successful phase 3 program over the past 8 months now. And of course, a lot more to come here. As you mentioned, we're still well funded for the foreseeable future here. So really, yeah, the highlights is we discovered this brand new deposit late last year called the Jack Zone. This is much higher grade than the main Oculto deposit that we have. This is, and predominantly silver, as we just mentioned. And so we've drilled overall. I mean, we've been extremely busy. I mean, the team at site's just done a phenomenal job for us on the exploration front. They've drilled about 85 holes so far. So they've completed 22,000 meters of drilling already. And we just announced in our last press release, because the Jack Zone is still open in a few key areas, we'll be drilling at least another 15 holes here. So overall, we'll be completing 100 holes and then announcing a resource estimate later this year, and then a pre-feasibility study later this year as well. And then you mentioned the grades. I mean, yeah, there's too many to name. But if you just look at even our last press release, so the latest announcement, I think had headline intercept of about 17 meters, grading 830 grams per ton of silver close to surface. And so, to put that in perspective, the cutoff grade here is about 35 grams. So if you have anything above 35 grams, that's economic. That would eventually get into the mine plan. But yeah, when you're hitting 830 grams, I mean, extremely, extremely high margins can be expected here. And so, it's been very, very consistent. It's not like we're hitting one hole that's high grade and, a bunch of lower grade holes around it. It's, the consistency is what's really, exciting us. It's systematically drilling this out, 25, 50 meter centers, and just continuing to get high grade zones here throughout the entire deposit. So that's it. I mean, we've been focused drilling, been focused on announcing results, and then in the back half of this year, we'll see all of that come together when we announce the resource estimate, the pre-feasibility study, and so lots to be excited about here.
Yeah, and I think that's an essential comment here, right? This is not just one single nuggety vein where it's 1 meter of 500 grams per ton, and then just dusters that you and excuse me, Abra have very consistently throughout every target you make. There is just everywhere you go, there's extremely economic grades. It's actually quite exciting. You have a very exciting project down there. But I guess I wanted to, and again, I mean, maybe as a nice segue from there, seeing expansions on drill campaigns is always a nice touch because obviously the company likes what's going on and they don't want to stop. Initially, this drill campaign was 15,000 meters. It gets up to 22,000 meters in the fall. Now, as you say, recently you've announced another 15 holes. I'm saying 250 meters roughly. You can correct me there if you want per hole. So another 3,500 or 4,000 meters there. Is that roughly correct?
Well,
I guess
200 meters per hole. So yeah, another 3,000 meters. Yeah, close.
Sure.
Close,
yeah, and so maybe let's talk about that updated campaign.
Sure.
So how many holes are you still on your first holes there? You have 2 rigs going. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we have 2 rigs going. But yeah, what's great is, I mean, that 22,000 meter campaign, originally we were expected to complete that by end of June. So we're 4 weeks ahead of schedule. And these other 15 holes now will take us about 6 weeks to complete. So we should complete these by the middle of July. So more or less all on the same schedule. I mean, it's 2 weeks later than initially expected. So not a significant delay at all. So we're happy. We're able to get a couple, 15 more holes in here. But as you mentioned, I mean, once you're, drilling this out, you don't want to do a pre-feasibility study when you don't even have the limits of the pit defined. I mean, it defeats the whole purpose of doing a detailed engineering study when you don't know how big this deposit is. And so initially we thought, look, we drill 15,000 meters, we define the Jack Zone, and then do the pre-feas. Then it got up to 22,000 meters. We completed that. It's still open in a number of directions. So we need to ring fence this in, eventually. I mean, you can't keep hitting high grades wherever. There's obviously a limit at some stage here. We're very happy that we haven't hit those limits yet. So we'll just keep systematically drilling this out, and then at the right time, of course, which should be in the matter of a couple months now, we'll then draw a line in the sand and say, that was the phase 3 program, which will all get incorporated into the pre-fees.
Well, and I guess that's the natural question that comes from this is, when do you stop, right? I mean, yeah, like you don't want to stop. If you keep hitting high grade, how do you ever, right? I mean, you say you excuse me, you draw a line in the sand, but where is that end point? When do you actually say, okay, enough is enough? Or do you keep exploring as long as Jack is giving you new content?
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, we're expecting that line is coming up pretty close. So with another 15 holes or so, we expect we should have this more or less defined. Of course, there's always going to be additional exploration upside here. I mean, it's only 8 months or so since we've discovered Jack, so it's far from being completely drilled out. But you need to essentially kind of ring fence it in and say, is it 800 meters along strike, or is it 850 meters? Is it 900 meters? I mean, we need to know the dimensions here, and then we can do a resource estimate and a pre-feasibility study. And then, of course, as this continues to expand, you can always update those studies. But you want to, you don't want to leave a big chunk of this deposit out of that initial study. So it's, the key is being able to define this here, and then putting out the resource estimate, the pre-fees later this year.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess just a quick follow-up question here just to clean up here. So obviously the 15 holes, 15 assays there, the previous 22,000 meters, are all those back from the lab, or are you still awaiting a couple?
No. So we still have about 30 holes, I believe, at the lab from those. So yeah, there's going to be, those 30 plus another 15 or so left to be announced. So another 45 holes, roughly, to be announced from this phase 3 program. So we've only announced almost half. I mean, we've announced about 50 to date. And so, it's still about half of the program is yet to be announced, which is incredible, just given the results we've already received back from that first half of the phase 3 holes. So a lot more news flow yet to be announced here.
And I absolutely encourage people, if you're not familiar with Abra, go check out their headline numbers, go check out the news releases. They do have some very, very impressive grade. I guess I wanted to ask about, after this, this is a question I ask of CEOs quite often, is the philosophy behind releasing a PFS. I mean, some companies try to avoid releasing mineral estimates for as long as possible. They feel, once you kind of plant your flag on that number, the market gets stuck on that. That's obviously not your approach. And I mean, selfishly as an investor, I always enjoy seeing mineral estimates and PEAs because it allows me to actually start looking at the economics more meaningfully. But I mean, maybe do you just want to explain your philosophy behind why you are more willing to come to market with these numbers?
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, well, look, we clearly know that we have a very robust project here, and we expect the economics are going to be very compelling. And the net present value we expect is going to be many multiples of our current share price. And so for us, I mean, it's how quickly can we get this pre-feasibility study out is the key question. We've been working now behind the scenes. I mean, again, as part of this metallurgical test work, that's all going to get incorporated into the pre-fees. We already have those results back. But we've been working on the pre-fees behind the scenes for well over 6 months now. And so it's quite well advanced. And so, it's going to contain the 2 deposits, Oculto and Jack. Of course, Jack is still growing. So we need to finalize that phase 3 drill campaign, and then define that and then incorporate that into the pre-fees. And so for us, it's part of adding value as an exploration company is you need to, of course, make a discovery, drill it out, but then, come out with the economics. Is this economic? I mean, we definitely expect this is going to be highly economic, given the grades, given the recoveries that we've already announced, and given the fact we already had a PA study out in 2021, just on the Oculto deposit alone, which showed a 30% after-tax rate of return. So it's a good benchmark. We know the project has grown materially since then. So yeah, we're going as quickly as possible, given the team we have in place and the cash we have on hand. That's been the goal from day one, is advancing this, de-risking this. Also on the permitting side, we've been working behind the scenes very diligently. We'll be submitting the EIA approvals very shortly as well. So yeah, just continuing to advance this as quickly as possible is the priority number one for us.
And advancing it quickly, I think you are. Yeah, I mean, it seems inevitable that this will be a mine at some point. It's just too simple and too strong of a jurisdiction, and just the grades are too strong. So just finished. So these 22,000 meters plus the additional 15 holes. That's phase 3. Do you have a notion of what phase 4 will look like, or what it'll target?
Yeah, so we have a number of other targets. So the way we discovered Jack is we conducted a big geophysical survey and saw these magnetic low anomalies. And so Jack was the biggest one. That's the one that we drilled first. And so that was phase 3. Phase 4, I mean, we have a couple other anomalies as well that look very, very intriguing. Alpaca and Phantasma and a couple of areas in between as well. So phase 4, again, is going to focus on oxides, shallow intercepts, something that could be processed in the same plant. In fact, at Phantasma, we've had a few historical drill intercepts there, and we sent those metallurgical samples to the lab as well. And so that was included as part of, so we know the recoveries are good there. So the next step will be define additional high grade, hopefully silver oxide mineralization deposits here.
And so, yeah, you mentioned Phantasma, you mentioned Alpaca. You know, can we reasonably expect those to start being that's the next phase?
Yeah,
those two names.
That'll be phase 4. Yep. Plus infill drilling Jack, infill drilling Oculto. I mean, we have multiple targets now. So all of these are on the Diablillos project. I guess sometimes investors get confused. They think we have all these projects. I mean, it's one project, but of course, there's different deposits of mineralization here. So we're only focused on Diablillos. That's our focus. All of these deposits will get processed in the same plant. And so, yeah, for some investors, it sounds like we have so many different things going on, but it's all focused at the same site, really.
And yeah, very close to one another. So I guess maybe another question here regarding just future drilling plans. As some investors have noted from Abra, that, you know, at the bottom of these assays, all of a sudden you're into this sulfide zone of 30 meters of 1% plus copper, which, you know, of course, starts to catch people's attention too, right? It's funny how you have this extremely high grade silver deposit layered on top of potentially some huge massive copper sulfide project. I mean, can you explain to us what that means to you? How does that expand or influence your geological exploration thesis? And then maybe, I mean, when might we see you targeting that more intentionally as well?
Correct. Yeah, no, so as you mentioned here, I mean, there's clearly significant potential at depth beneath both Oculto and Jack. And in fact, so we've hit copper intercepts now beneath those deposits for the entire 2-kilometer strike length, essentially. So this is a large strike extent. I mean, this, sulfide mineralization is open, has yet to be targeted in any systematic way. I mean, we've only hit these as you drill into the oxides. I mean, we want to hit basically through the oxides into the transition zone, and that's normally where we stop. But for some of the holes, we extend them into some of the sulfides. And again, in dozens of occasions, we've hit over 1% copper, with gold and silver, over, tens of meters of, widths here. And in fact, in the last press release, we hit our highest copper intercept at the Jack zone. So I think that was 3.3% copper over 30 meters. I mean, over a serious intercept. So, that's something that we'll target down the road. I mean, it's not the focus right now. It's obviously very exciting. Those are incredible copper grades along with silver and gold. But, you'd mine out the oxides first. And so we likely have at least a 20-year mine life here in the oxides. Targeting the sulfides beneath that is going to be, likely processed way down the road. And so that's something we'll target in future drill campaigns. But for right now, the low-hanging fruit is you keep drilling out the oxide mineralization here. And so that's going to be the phase 4 focus. But yeah, I mean, drilling a couple deeper holes makes a lot of sense, just so we can see the consistency of the grades. But that's not going to be the entire focus of the next drill campaign, I wouldn't say.
No, perfect. Thank you. So, I mean, we're kind of nearing the end here of this update. I mean, maybe I'll swing over and just touch on any updates from La Cuepita that you want to discuss here.
So yeah, so we've completed that hole. It's 1.3 kilometers roughly. at depth and still waiting for assays. And so we expect to receive the assays sometime in June, so over the next 4 weeks here. And as soon as we get those, we'll announce those. And then the priority there would be to sort of attract a major partner, I'd say. So that's a big sort of system there. You need tens of millions of dollars to properly drill that out. And so, you know, we're familiar with the seniors that are in San Juan province. We have good dialogue with a few of them already. And so the goal there would be to attract a major partner. They could advance that and sort of earn into the project while we focus, of course, on Diablillos.
And so no serious, just to, if I'm interpreting you correctly, no serious drill campaign until maybe you have that JV or that senior partner?
That's right. Yeah. No, it was, so this year's drilling was just that one deep hole. And then, you know, the next step would be to find a partner, I would say, or, you know, spin it off. I mean, there's a number of different options, but essentially the cash we have on our balance sheet is going to be focused 100% on Diablillos as we look forward here.
And well justified, I think, at that for sure. So maybe, do you just want to sum up? I mean, it's been 6 months. Do you want to sum up what 6 months of drilling has done for your company and done for your thesis?
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for having me back. I think it was always good to give an update. A lot of, consistently high-grade drill results here has been the key for us over the last 6 months, I would say. And so, yeah, for us, I mean, that, you know, I think we've already summarized it. We've defined this jack zone. It's high-grade. It's still open. So we're still drilling there. So it's been, you know, I'd say very exciting last 6 months for us. But, you know, what's really exciting is the 6 months ahead, because that's when it all starts coming together. And so we'll complete this phase 3 drill program from Jack and then announce a resource, announce a pre-fees. At that stage, you have economics around this project. And so, you know, we're very excited to advance the project to the pre-feasibility study stage here.
Yeah, absolutely. You are in the middle of some exciting headlines and exciting news, as you say, transitioning from 6 months of drilling into a resource estimate, into a PFS. If you're in this industry, obviously you would be excited by high-grade numbers. So again, I encourage people, go check out AbraSilver's results. The last 6 months has just been headline after headline. Very, very exciting stuff. John, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Matt.
Take care.